A day by the sea, and for Brazilian Francisco Freitas, a chance to think about the journey he made 9 years ago. A journey that brought him here to Japan. In search of a better life and escaping a right-wing government, he followed his wife to the home of her ancestors. But things haven't been easy, especially now the economy is taking a downturn.
This month alone, 50 Brazilians in my factory have been laid off. What are those people going to do now? How are they going to pay for food, electricity, gas, and their kids' education? That's a huge worry.
In the local Brazilian supermarket, Francisco greets fellow workers who've come for a quick taste of home. The community here in Hamamatsu is 20,000 strong. There are an estimated 300,000 Brazilians in Japan. Many are ethnic Japanese whose families migrated to Brazil as farmers more than a century ago. Others followed, attracted by the promise of high wages and good working conditions. The community, however, is preparing for hard times. These volunteers are cooking meals for impoverished workers who have recently lost their jobs. The local Catholic church is the only place they can turn to when laid off, unlike the social safety net of their Japanese colleagues. This volunteer says he's going back to Brazil for good. At least, he says, he can get a job there. In many of these factories, at least 50% of the workforce has come from overseas. But instead of finding high salaries and job security, they've discovered they're the first casualties as the economy goes downhill. Japanese law, however, offers little protection for overseas workers. This labour union has been fighting for their rights, particularly increasing numbers of Asian workers, but says employers here need to change the way they see their employees.
Japan doesn't see other Asian nations as their equal. Japan doesn't really think of itself as part of Asia or an Asian country, although geographically it is. Rather, Japan thinks it is in a position to instruct other Asian countries.
These Chinese workers came to Japan as trainees, hoping to learn skills that would serve them well back home. Instead, they say they were used as cheap labour. The promises of their initial working contracts never fulfilled. Now they all live together on top of a motorcycle garage, waiting for grievances against their employers to be settled by the union before they can go home. Their stories differ. Some worked in factories, others as farm labourers. But all complain they suffered with employers who treated them as virtual slaves.
They think we are very cheap. They only have to pay a third or a quarter of what they pay the Japanese.
But with hard times on the horizon, Japan's worries may be closer to home. Having only just escaped a decade of deflation, many here fear their shrinking economy won't be able to endure another prolonged period without growth. Tony Cheng, Al Jazeera, Tokyo.